Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we're talking about something a little bit out there. As you can see, Kylian Mbappe to Manchester United this summer. Could it happen? Should Manchester United try and pursue it? All of that good stuff. Now, to give you the context of kind of why Mbappe might even be available, it goes a little bit like this. Mbappe has a contract which runs out next summer, so in a year's time. His kind of stance on the situation is that he would like to stay at PSG for one more season, or that's at least what he's saying, and then leave on a free transfer next summer. PSG are going, we are not going to let you leave on a free transfer. So you've got two options. You can either sign a new contract right now, or you can leave for a big fee this summer. Mbappe is kind of going, well, I'm not signing the contract. So that hints that PSG are more than likely at the moment to sell Kylian Mbappe this summer. Now, there's only a few clubs in the world which can afford that sort of move. Real Madrid, Manchester City, and maybe Manchester United if we see that new Qatari backing this summer. So, the question is this the sort of move United should be doing? I mean, the immediate reaction to that is yes, because you just have to look at these numbers. 244 goals and 116 assists in just 325 appearances at club level so far in his career. Those numbers are absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. If we look at the numbers at PSG, 212 goals and 98 assists, which, what's the maths there? 310 goal contributions in 260 games. The numbers are off the charts. They're unrivaled. These are Ronaldo and Messi sort of level numbers at their best. These are the numbers which Kylian Mbappe is putting up, which is why people look at it and go, I'd quite like him. So the question is, does it work from a tactical point of view? Well, you guessed it, that's what we're going to be looking at today. And for the purpose of this, we are going to use Kylian Mbappe as a left winger, because I believe that is where he wants to play in the long term. It's where we see him play for France, and it's been some of the annoyance he's had at PSG that he has wanted to play as a left winger, but has actually been used up front. So let's say United were to sign him and use him on the left wing. Marcus Rashford moves up front. What would Mbappe bring to Manchester United from the left wing, and does it work with what Erik Ten Hag is trying to build? Because whilst Kylian Mbappe is probably the best player in the world right now, Ten Hag still needs to sign the right players, the right profiles to suit his squad. He can't just go out there like we saw with Ronaldo the other year, sign a big player which doesn't really fit the system. Mbappe needs to fit if United want him. So does he fit on the left wing? Well, I mean, one thing he certainly suits is the transitioning football United like to play. Kylian Mbappe on the counter-attack is absolutely frightening. He's absolutely rapid, we all know about that, in terms of his acceleration, but also his sprinting over long distance. Kylian Mbappe is right up there as one of the fastest, most lethal footballers in world football, possibly that world football has ever seen. And the prospect of a counter-attack containing both Mbappe and Marcus Rashford is genuinely quite terrifying. Now, one run that Mbappe in particular likes on the counter-attack is the run from out to in, something which Marcus Rashford also likes actually. So let's say Bruno Fernandes was to get the ball on the counter-attack in this sort of position. Mbappe loves making this bending run from kind of left wing, it past the fullback and inside to this channel where the ball can then be played over the top. From there he uses his blistering pace and lethal 1-versus-1 finishing ability to put the ball in the back of the net more times than not. Now he can also do it from this side as well. For example, if Eriksen was to have the ball here and it was to be kind of slid through, threaded through the team, Mbappe is more than capable of getting on this ball. Now, the effect that this typically tends to have is that the opposition do two things. They sit off a little bit deeper to kind of reduce the space in behind them, but also they will narrow the fullback, just because that space is too scary. You can't let Mbappe have it. However, what this then does is it allows you to pass to Mbappe's feet. Because the space isn't there in behind, this means Mbappe has more room to receive the ball to his feet, from where he can get his head up and play from there. And this is where Mbappe is so good. He isn't a one-trick pony, it isn't just about his pace in behind the defence. When he's dribbling, he is absolutely ridiculous. He's a ridiculously good dribbler, one of the best dribblers in the world at the moment, using again that brilliant burst of speed, but also really good close control to take the ball in these situations and carry the ball up the pitch. Again, he's absolutely phenomenal at it. Something else he offers on the counter-attack as well is also really good movement. He's excellent at kind of making runs which will drag different players out of position to free up room for others. So again, that kind of link-up of Marcus Rashford and Mbappe looking to play on the shoulder of the last line of the defence, those two on the counter-attack, it could be frightening, kind of interchanging. At times Rashford would be on the left, Mbappe would be the main man, and at times it could swap the other way. These two kind of making darting runs, bending runs, making moves for each other, manipulating the opposition defenders, moving the space, it would genuinely be a frightening prospect. So I think these two on the counter-attack would be lethal. So in terms of that side of the game, the transitioning side of the game, Mbappe certainly suits what United like to do because he is the best transitioning threat in world football. Now, unfortunately for Mbappe, the problem for him would be that the Premier League is actually a very tactically astute league. The tactical level in the Premier League is much higher than every other league in the world at the moment. So whilst Mbappe loves exploiting that space, teams aren't really going to give it to him. And most teams playing against United, with Mbappe and Rashford in the side, would choose to sit a little bit deeper, reduce the space in behind them so the pace isn't as much of a weapon. So the question is, can Mbappe be kind of effective from this point of view? Well, again, fortunately the answer is yes. And he has a really good dynamic usually with his left back. And we saw a really good example of this at the World Cup with Theo Hernandez. The way that Theo Hernandez and Mbappe worked was that they would never be on the same line as each other. So if the fullback is inside, Mbappe is outside. If the fullback is wide, the winger then moves inside. And that was a dynamic which worked really well. So for example, in situations where Shaw was a little bit more tucked in, we would see Mbappe playing wider, the ball would be used to go here, and he's a really good 1-versus-1 isolation winger. No one in world football wants to be 1-versus-1 against Mbappe because, I mean, you're going to lose. You are going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10 because Mbappe is ridiculously good. He's very, very good at kind of slowing you down and then having that burst of speed to get towards the byline. From where his delivery is actually surprisingly good. A lot of people talk about Mbappe as a goal scorer. He's always also right up there in terms of assists, chances created and things like that as well. So this would be a good dynamic. But I think the dynamic we would see a little bit more is perhaps the left back pushing a little bit higher and a little bit wider, or maybe the midfielder doing the same, allowing Mbappe to come inside. Because this is where he really comes to life. The closer to goal you have Mbappe, the better, simply because he is a lethal finisher. But the question is, you know, if they're playing against a low block, can he actually get into the positions to finish? Well, again, the answer to this question is yes, because Mbappe once again has deceptively good link-up play in these areas. People talk about his pace, his trickery, his dribbling, his finishing ability. He's actually also a good passer, and he's really good in these confined spaces, trying to break down a low block. He's really good at playing quick 1-2s, quick combinations, and then of course he uses that burst of pace again to get in behind the defence. But we can see this kind of his passing ability in his FBref report. These are all his passing numbers. We can see in terms of passes completed, the 96th percentile, pass completion rate, the 93rd percentile, for short passes it's the 93rd, for medium passes it's the 84th percentile, key passes the 92nd, expected assists the 97th, passes into the penalty area the 98th percentile. I think you guys probably get the idea. Mbappe is a very good short passer of the ball. So in terms of his combination and his link play in and around the opposition penalty area, again he would be very dangerous and he's more than capable of doing this. And of course what he adds on top of this is that quick burst of pace to pick up the ball in this situation, isolate the centre back and beat him with just ridiculous pace, getting himself into the penalty area, into the danger area where we know he is a very good finisher. Let's be honest, you don't score 244 goals in 325 games at club level if you are a poor finisher. It just doesn't happen. But if we kind of take a deeper dive, we can see that he's a better finisher than average. Because this season he was expected to score 19.95 goals. So about 20 goals. He has scored 26, which is a very, very good overperformance. It's not so high that you think it might drop off at some point, but it's also much higher than average as well. Pointing to the fact that Mbappe is a simply ridiculous finisher. And kind of for all those reasons, I think on the ball, Mbappe certainly fits this Manchester United team, playing as a left winger, rotating with Marcus Rashford on the ball. So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order. Now I think most people when they clicked on this video probably would have expected that to be the verdict. Mbappe on the ball is a joke. The bigger question is probably over the defensive side of his game. It's a side of his game which has been heavily criticised during his time at PSG, playing in that attack with Messi and Neymar. Now, Neymar is kind of harshly often put in that group with those three. Neymar works far harder than what Mbappe and Messi both did for PSG over the past few seasons. So the question is, if Mbappe was to come into a team, would his lack of defensive ability be have too much of a negative impact on the team for it to really be worth it? Well, maybe, but not if you use the right pressing structure. And the pressing structure we're going to allude to is the exact same pressing structure which I've been talking about since the season ended. This is the shape, in my opinion, which United should transition to. And it looks a little bit like this. Your striker moves on to a left centre-back. You have your left winger in Kylian Mbappe move on to the other centre-back. You then push the fullback on that side all the way up onto the fullback. So initially you've gone man to man with the opposition's back four. We can see that here. You can let the goalkeeper have the ball, but pick up the rest of the players. Or use a kind of shadow press to apply pressure to the ball, whilst again still marking this player. From here you then go man for man in the midfield, with someone like Bruno Fernandes locking onto the pivot, Casemiro and Eriksen also locking on. And then also you go man for man in the defence as well, with Varane and Dalot providing that bit of height you need, and Lisandro Martinez kind of that aggression in the defence. This is a pressing shape which genuinely I think would work really well for United no matter who they sign. But I think it works for Rashford and Mbappe, because they don't have to be super intense as a front two defensively in these situations. They just need to apply pressure to one man. This isn't like they're covering a lot of ground between two players, which strikers and forwards are often asked to do. That wouldn't be the case here. You're asking them to pick up a player each and press them. I think United could do that with these two. Now for me, the question marks over Mbappe's pressing ability aren't too big. He isn't the best presser in the world, but he is okay. He will do a job doing it. We saw it under Thomas Tuchel when he was at PSG. The bigger question for me is going the other way. I think he is capable of applying pressure to the ball. The question for me is he going to put in the hard yards going the other way, tracking back? And unfortunately the answer probably is no. And that would be a concern in the Premier League, where we know that teams like to push their right backs nice and aggressively, nice and forward into dangerous areas. There would be the risk that Luke Shaw at left back would become outnumbered in 2 versus 1 situations. And this is where someone like Ten Hag, but also the opposition manager, would have a decision to make. Because if you push your right back all the way forward into these areas, you might 2 versus 1 Shaw, which is problematic. However, what you do by doing that is you do leave Kylian Mbappe free, which means United on the counter-attack become even more dangerous, and we saw that threat earlier. So this is where we would see real question marks. Again, if we go to the World Cup as an example, when England were faced with this situation, they chose to use their right back in much deeper positions. Kyle Walker stayed a bit deeper. Now, yes, he still got forward on occasion, as a right back always will, but we saw Kyle Walker in deeper areas. So this is kind of the tactical game of chess or cat and mouse that you would see. Do the opposition push their right back forward, try and hurt United but leave themselves vulnerable at the back, or do they be a bit more secure, making it easier for United to defend, but then also Mbappe's a bit more restricted? That is kind of the tactical game which we would see, but I think it's fair to say that Mbappe would potentially cause problems out of possession. But my point of view, and the way that I see it, is I think he is so good on the ball that you make the exception. And he's probably the only player in the world that I would say that for right now. Messi probably being the other one. Those are probably the 2 footballers in the world at the moment where you make the exception to get them in the team because they are that good. For me, Mbappe is, if not the best, then the most dangerous player on the planet at the moment, and he's got the potential to kind of be in that category for the next 10 years if he gets that bit of luck with injuries which he needs. So for me, I think if the money is there, particularly with Qatari owners or a lot of player sales, if Mbappe is a genuine possibility for Manchester United, which I don't know if he is. If he is, I would go for it because, like I said, I think these opportunities only come up every now and then. The price is kind of a similar price to the likes of Harry Kane, to the price of Osimhen. We know that Mbappe is better than both of those players and is going to be for the next 10 years. So personally, I would really be tempted if it is on, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is this something you would pursue? Do you think it's possible? Let me know your thoughts. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you in the next one.